We are coming on the air tonight with what looks like a serious escalation in the White House's military flex against Venezuela. You've got the Trump administration now seizing a tanker as we're seeing an aircraft carrier, fighter jets, tens of thousands of troops in the region. We've got team coverage on this developing news. Then Wall Street late today rallying after the Fed slashed interest rates, walking that tightrope between keeping inflation down and employment up. Our reporter in the room to press the Fed chair will join us live in just a second. Plus, the state of emergency just declared in the last couple of minutes as that closely watched flood threat now swamps the West Coast. The dramatic evacuations and dangerous rock slides, with experts warning the worst is yet to come. Then the new details into us on the lawsuit against a cruise line over a passenger allegedly attacked by crew members, claiming he was served more than 30 alcoholic drinks before he died on board. We've got the latest there. Then could paper checks be checking out for good? A closer look at the push to bounce them in our breakdown coming up a little bit later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and in just the last couple of hours, we're learning that U.S. troops have seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela and what is really a dramatic escalation of the tension that we've been talking about building in the Caribbean. I want you to listen to what President Trump said in just the last couple of hours about this. Watch.
Seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening.
President Trump didn't say who the ship belongs to, didn't say what's going to happen to that oil. But remember, you're seeing it here. The U.S. has been conducting strikes since September on drug boats. So obviously different kind of vessel here. But it's been happening in the Caribbean Sea and the Eastern Pacific, the latest just last week. The president has justified those strikes by saying the U.S. is in an armed conflict with drug cartels. He's been building up this big military presence down there, threatening land strikes repeatedly. All of it coming just a day after he shared his thinking on the next steps he's considering.
So how far would you go to take Maduro out of office?
I don't want to say that,
But you want to see him out?
his days are numbered.
Garrett Hake is covering this from the White House. Courtney Cubie is here with us on set. Court, we'll start with you as our Pentagon correspondent here. We know a little bit. There's a lot we don't know and a lot of questions that I think the public wants answers to, and so do lawmakers.
Yeah, that's right. So as far as the seizure, we believe that at least the U.S. Coast Guard was involved in this. Now, remember, historically, the U.S. Coast Guard has been involved in searches and seizures in that region, primarily due to drugs, right? Mm-hmm. So if they're, and it is generally criminal in nature, right? So,
and to be clear, there's been no justification on this seizure given by the administration of this oil tanker.
Exactly. Okay. That is the big question still, is what was the legal justification for doing this? Was there some sort of probable cause that there was some sort of illicit activity that would warrant the U.S. Coast Guard stopping the ship and then searching it and then potentially seizing it? And then the next big question is, did they actually find something? Is the U.S. planning to hold on to this? Now, President Trump, as part of what we just watched there in this meeting today, he was also asked what's going to happen to the oil, and he posited that it's possible the U.S. will hold on to it, will keep the oil. So under what legal justification would the U.S. ever be able to hold on to this oil? There are so many questions here right now, including exactly what it was that led to the U.S. doing this, and was it just the Coast Guard, or was there a U.S. military component to this as well?
So I was just going to ask you, can you explain why that would be significant if it were just the Coast Guard doing this versus the Coast Guard plus, let's say, one of the branches of the military?
The Coast Guard could be involved in this if it was a potential criminal action, right? So the military, now there could have been military support for it. Remember, the U.S. has brought all of this military capability down in there. There could have been surveillance from overhead. They could have provided them with some sort of intelligence, anything like that. But if there were actually members of the U.S. military who were involved in a search or involved in the actual seizure of this tanker, I mean, the big question is under what authority and why?
You have asked those questions, Garrett Hake, at the White House, of White House officials, I know, and we're still waiting on answers on that front. It's important to be clear that we showed that video, right, the 20 box or whatever of all those different strikes that the U.S. has conducted on drug boats. This is different. This is an oil tanker. This is a different level, and it sends a different kind of message.
It is, Hallie, and we're not waiting on that information anymore. I'm holding in my hand X post from the Attorney General of the video of this strike, which says that it was conducted, or this seizure conducted with the FBI, Homeland Security investigations, the Coast Guard, with support from the Department of War, executing this seizure of a tanker used to transport sanctioned oil, they say, from Venezuela and Iran. So the involvement of all of those agencies here and the size of the tanker, which we're seeing now, is exactly what you imagine a full-size oil tanker, suggests to me a couple of things. Number one, absolutely, this is a much more involved operation than the kind of strike you can conduct on a small boat like you're seeing on your screen right now. This isn't done with a drone or two. It's a coordinated multi-agency response, and it also has a bigger political cost, if you will. You are not targeting alleged narco trafficking boats, a gang asset. You are targeting, in this case, is what is essentially a government asset. If you're saying it's linked to, sanctioned activity, you're targeting a commercial vessel that's doing work for a government. In this case, they claim two governments, Venezuela and Iran.
Hold that thought for just 1 second, Garrett, because I want to explain something. We've been showing some video. These are of the other boat strikes, the smaller boat strikes.
That's correct.
There is video attached to this. This is just coming into us, by the way, live on the air. You're seeing it as we are.
In real time.
That's exactly right. And there's video now attached to this statement from the Attorney General. I'm going to ask our team in the control room, and I think they're already working on this, to try to turn that around. So hang tight with us for 1 second. We're going to get that video to you, because this is the first that we've seen of the strike on the tanker. And I want to go to Courtney on this, Garrett, while you take a look. I know at your email here, Court. The Attorney General, as Garrett said that as we literally were just talking about the rationale here, says it was being used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. I'm going to ask you to explain that, but I'm also going to read the next sentence here, which says that the tanker has been sanctioned by the U.S. due to its involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations. What does that say to you?
So now, it's hard to know exactly, but remember where the majority of Venezuelan oil goes. The majority of it makes its way ultimately to China, and usually it will go there via other pathways to avoid any kind of sanctions. Now, remember, the United States sees Maduro as the illegitimate leader. They believe that he is directly involved. In fact, there have been charges that he is directly involved in the drug trade.
Yeah.
So it's possible that the supporting and again, I'm reading this in real time, but it's possible that the supporting foreign terrorist organizations in this case could be Maduro. Just based off of the way that this is written. I mean, I will say this video is remarkable to see.
Let me just check. Do we have that, gang? Can we turn it around? I'm talking to our control room team. I don't know if we can just run a rip or pull it up. We will in a second for you here. But, Courtney, it shows this helicopter in the ship and all of it. So walk us through what's significant to you about that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's just very clear from military video, frankly. But it appears to be, I cannot tell from the video what kind of helicopter it is yet. It looks like it might be a Black Hawk, but it could be a Coast Guard helicopter. Okay. But it sure.
And by the way, significant though, the Attorney General said it was led by the Coast Guard, right, along with the FBI, Homeland Security investigations, and then support from the Defense Department.
But the individuals who are rappelling out of that helicopter really don't look like Coast Guard. They look like U.S. military.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, especially if you look at the gear that they're using. Again, I'm looking on a phone and it's kind of small, but that's what we're checking out right now.
Can we, I don't know, guys, we're having a server issue. Can I be annoying here? I don't know if we can just zoom in. I just want to show people. You can pull it up on your own phone if you want to look at it here, but it's literally a helicopter showing people kind of rappelling out. It's a robo-cam. Oh, here we go. I mean, this is it. This is coming into us here. And, Court, to your point, sorry for all the fingerprints there, folks, but to your point, it's very clear. You can clearly see these people sort of, it has now been unclassified, as you can see right there. You can see these people, rappelling down basically out of the thing. Sorry, that's my Ring doorbell cam going off, and an ill-timed piece of it there. But Court, and Garrett, I'll bring you back here too. This is obviously a piece of the puzzle that we have been waiting for now ever since news broke not 4.5 hours ago about this seizure of the oil tanker. On what basis? To Courtney's point, on what basis, Garrett? And now we have some degree of an answer.
Yeah, I mean, they say this is being done in execution of a warrant. Talking about crude oil tanker used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. I mean, these are both countries that have operated under sanctions for quite some time on their oil industries. And if I could just pull back the curtain a little bit further on this, Hallie, I mean, we knew as early as this morning that there was something up here. The Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, the secretary there, was speaking this morning and suggested that members of the administration were watching this video this morning and that this information would come out later.
Yeah,
we're finally getting a good, really good look at this video.
This is a closer look, yeah.
This is much better and no alerts popping up. And the other thing about this video that strikes me, Hallie, is it reminds me, in a way, of the video we saw when the administration first started transporting undocumented immigrants from the United States to that prison in Sikot. This is much grainier, a little bit lower production value, but the same idea of releasing this cut-together clips where you've got wide shots, tight shots, drone video from a variety of angles here. The sort of high production value and value placed on presenting those images quickly to the American people. You heard the president talk about it in the Oval Office today, the idea that this video would be getting out quickly. There's a show your work element to this, and a little bit of I think, a desire to create a rally around the flag effect here, too, by showing this in the kind of detail that, candidly, people just aren't used to seeing of these kinds of operations anywhere except a movie theater.
And I see Courtney Kuby, she's here with us on set, peering intently at this, because you're looking for clues in this, Court.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what kind of helicopter this is. It looks like it could be a Black Hawk or a Seahawk, but I don't want to say that with absolute certainty, because that could give us an indication of exactly who these individuals are that you see rappelling out and running across the screen. I mean, again, it sure does appear to be U.S. military, but we know that the Coast Guard was involved as well. So the big question now is, sorry, I was looking at the bigger screen over here. I mean, I think the big question now is exactly who was directly involved in this. We know that the FBI, based off of this social media posting that we just got, the FBI was directly involved.
Which is interesting.
Which is absolutely interesting. And again, they executed a seizure warrant for a crude oil tanker. I can't recall the U.S. doing that. This seems relatively unprecedented, at least in recent times. So.
And Garrett, to the point of sort of notable moments about this, the FBI being involved, the word of this officially coming out from the Attorney General at the Department of Justice, and not, for example, Secretary Kristi Noem or Secretary Pete Hegseth or the President or the White House themselves, that's also kind of a tell here.
Yeah, it tells me two things. Number one, it underscores the idea that the response to Maduro, the pressure campaign on Maduro in Venezuela, is a whole of government operation here. This is not purely military. It's not purely about drugs. Here you see disparate elements of this administration working together to execute something that kind of checks a number of boxes as they try to essentially force out Maduro. I mean, the president doesn't call it a regime change operation, but they've also placed a bounty on Maduro, so they've made it pretty clear they want him out of the country. I mean, in the clip we played at the top, the idea that his days are numbered. Second, the idea that this was an execution of a warrant and the level of coordination involved here tells me that this has been in the planning for quite some time, right? This was not something that popped off as a target of opportunity. An oil tanker seizure and the personnel and material required to do that is not a target of opportunity. It's a long lead time planning, and it may be the answer to the question that has been presented over really since Thanksgiving or thereabouts, when the president started saying that there would be more coming on Venezuela. He talked about land strikes. This obviously isn't that, but it is such a significant escalation that you have to think he knew days, if not weeks ago, that something like this was in the works.
Courtney, jump in here. I know you want to.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this on my phone. I do believe now that we're getting a close look, I think these are the Coast Guard MSRTs. It's a Maritime Security Response Force. I forget what the exact acronym stands for exactly, but this is the kind of thing that they will be trained for. They're this elite group who will work on counter-terror missions, counter-narcotics, interdictions and things like this. And it does appear that that's who we're seeing in that screen now that I'm able to zoom in a little bit on my phone here.
Okay, that's helpful to know. And Garrett, all of this, by the way, is we have heard from Maduro himself, even over the course of the last several hours as this was all happening.
Yeah, fascinating coincidence of timing that Maduro was speaking to a rally today in Venezuela of farmers, and he was talking about, fears of a U.S. invasion and the U.S. essentially bullying in the region. He's been, giving these public responses for quite some time. His quotes today were compelling. He said, "This is not a time for cowards. It's a time for combat." So some saber rattling there from Maduro, who's also called up militias and the like in Venezuela to be prepared, or as prepared as he can be, for whatever may come next year.
Garrett Haake, Courtney Kube, thank you both very much. So just to recap here, in the last literally 14 and a half minutes, we have learned more about the seizure of this oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. The video that you see on the left-hand side of your screen has just come into us, released by the Attorney General at the Department of Justice, laying out what she views and what the administration views as the rationale for the reason behind this seizure, of course, which is the illegal transport, they say, of unsanctioned oil, or of sanctioned oil related to Venezuela and Iran. So that is where things stand. Bottom line, TLDR, major escalation of these tensions in the Caribbean. That's what this is. And as Garrett has laid out, as Courtney has laid out, the potential for more moving forward, as the president has strongly previewed, as the president has strongly hinted on that front, suggesting the possibility, for example, of land strikes in Venezuela and obviously the seizure of this tanker. Some pretty dramatic video there. So we've got our teams on it. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to get to Raf Sanchez overseas for more on this, too. So stick with us. But we've got a number of other headlines that are coming into us as well today, including one about your money. Several headlines, really, about your money. Want to show you Wall Street closing at the closing bell in just the last hour, really rallying here after the Fed cut interest rates for the third time this year. All of this, look at this, green, 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 including a big surge for the Dow. So read the tea leaves, and you're going to hear the Fed chair hinting that this may be one of the last cuts that we see for a while, predicting costs are going to keep going up because of the president's tariffs. Now, it's hard to tell what the impacts really are right now because there's still a lot of missing data that wasn't reported during that historically long government shutdown. You'll remember that shutdown started in October. It lasted the longest we've seen any shutdown in American history. And during the time, we didn't see things like job reports, right? We didn't see certain indicators that the central bank would want to know, puzzle pieces that they would want to know how the economy is doing. Kind of the same deal with the key inflation report, too, which will also come out late. But the data we do have is coming in from private companies, not the government, showing the labor market slowing down and the prices people pay for the stuff they need ticking up. All of it, as the president insists late today, his economic vision is working.
I inherited, very simply, the highest prices in history, and I'm bringing them down really fast.
Let me bring in our business correspondent, Christine Romans, who is here in Washington with us. And Christine, you were there. You questioned Fed Chair Jay Powell here at this meeting. The Fed has made this cut. You previewed it with us 24 hours ago here that this was probably coming. Help us understand what it means for people who are just trying to live their lives, save some money, and get through Christmas.
Yeah, this is the third rate cut in a row here. And now you've got that benchmark important lending rate is essentially the lowest in 3 years since 2022. So that is supposed to be a little bit of stimulus in the economy, right? It can help businesses and consumers afford to borrow money for a little cheaper. So mortgage rates are set really by the 10-year note by the market. But when you have the Fed cutting interest rates, you can tend to see those rates drift lower as well. And they've got credit card interest rates, auto loan interest rates. A lot of different consumer loans are pegged to this Fed rate cut. So hopefully it means that there will be lower borrowing costs for consumers in the weeks and months ahead.
It's always interesting to hear the kind of tea leaves that Jay Powell drops on this. What are the hints that you're reading into about what prices may look like next year, about the impact of tariffs too, Christine?
Yeah, it's interesting because he said that tariffs will likely have a one-time effect of boosting inflation. And then you kind of get through that and you kind of reset. So you could see the peak of the tariff effect on prices maybe early this year, and then you'll start to move through that. But it's hard to tell, he said, because, you know, international trade is such a long and complicated and widespread kind of part of the economy. So they're really watching that very carefully. But they're hoping that it's going to be just a one-time effect in terms of the tariffs. Listen to a little bit of what he said.
Sustainable is the so-called K-shaped economy, and what are the Fed's thoughts on whether that's a risk going forward?
So we do, through our vast network of contacts and just through our observation of what's going on in the economy, we hear about this a lot. As how sustainable it is, I don't know.
And that K-shaped economy, that's that price problem, right? Where you've got wealthy people who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the economy, a lot of the spending, and people who make less money who are really stretched by those higher prices, 5 years of higher prices, then higher tariff prices on top of that. So he acknowledged that there's something going on there, you know, that you have this sort of dichotomy in the economy. Unclear how sustainable that is.
Christine Romans, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Glad you're here. Knew you would be, and I know we'll see you again next hour. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Also breaking tonight, right as we were coming on the air, the governor of Washington state declared a state of emergency with those atmospheric rivers pummeling the Pacific Northwest. 18 rivers in that state on track to hit major flood stage. We've also seen south of Seattle evacuations that have been happening all day after flooding. People near one of these rivers here had to be rescued by fire and rescue crews. I want you to take a listen to some of what we've seen, too, in Oregon, just north of Portland here, with floodwaters surging in. Watch.
I got up, do my regular routine, made some breakfast, watched the news for a minute, didn't hear anything about it, and stepped outside and noticed my mat was floating. I saw it looked like a river running through here, so I hooked everything up, hooked up my trailer to my truck and got it up on the main road out here, and was able to move it to another part.
You hear him there. The big threat now, landslides, of course, that wet ground. It's totally saturated. The concern that could give way. Let me bring in now our Bill Cairns, who is joining us now. Bill, you called it on Monday. You said this would be the big story of the later part of the week, and here we are now. 6 million people under flood watch, and people are saying the worst is yet to come.
Yeah, all the rivers are going to, gathering all that water and other tributaries, and we're going to expect to head into the headwaters as we go throughout tonight and tomorrow. That's when we're expecting most of the crest to occur. And this atmospheric river is not done either. You can still see the bright white well out into the areas of the Pacific. So this is still going to bring some areas of heavy rain. The rainfall in the last 24 hours has been in the 4 to 6 inch range in the mountainous areas here. And you can see it's still raining hard. Most of the heavy stuff now is up near Mount Vernon towards Bellingham, but it'll fill back in tonight. Seattle itself is on the downslope, and so the air rises up over the mountain. It rains out, and then when the air comes down to the Puget Sound, that's why you're not hearing about any flooding in Seattle or even Portland for that matter. It's in the mountains. But all of that water in the mountains has to run down towards Seattle and Tacoma here. And all the maroon you see on this map, those were all individual river flood warnings. And so the peak of the Cascades is here, and now it's all collecting and heading downstream. And we do expect the worst of this to occur tomorrow. So as far as additional rainfall, another 1 to 3 inches, maybe isolated up to 5 or 6. But then tomorrow we get more showery type weather. So that's why we're expecting the crest. This is the map that shows you all of the major river flooding expected in the purple gauges here. The Skagit River, we're waiting to see what happens. This was the one this morning that they said the river crest was going to be 3 feet higher than the old record in Mount Vernon. Excuse me, Hallie. 3 feet higher than the old record in Mount Vernon. We're waiting to see if that comes true. Also down to the south here in Snohomish County, we are expecting Snohomish to have a record crest equal to 1990, which was their highest. And so looking ahead, we do dry it out a little bit this weekend. So tomorrow, Hallie, is the day. If we're going to get the major flooding in populated areas, it would happen tomorrow. And it would mostly occur if we get levees that are either overtopped or if they kind of give way. There's a lot of old levees in Washington State, and we're hoping that they can survive this one.
Fingers crossed on that, Bill. Keep an eye on all of it. We'll have you back. I know. Appreciate it. Also tonight, you've got the Trump administration rolling out this controversial new plan, pretty dramatic one, that would require all foreign tourists to turn over their social media histories if they want to get into the country. So this is under the plan. People from countries that don't even require a visa, so like the UK, Germany, they would have to show their last 5 years of what they've done online to Customs and Border Protection. Now, think about what that means, and then think about that in the context of the World Cup, right, that is happening in just a few months from now here in North America, that's drawing fans from all over the world. I want to bring in Julia Ainsley, who's with us now. This is one of those big deal kind of moments, right? Because you've got a ton of people that are getting ready to come to the United States. They're going to have to show 5 years of their social media history. A ton of questions here. Why? How's it going to work? What happens if CBP sees something that they don't like, and how do they define that?
So first, Hallie, can I share something with you that I literally just got from CBP as I walked on set? Because
it's the day of voting.
Okay, good. I asked this exact same questions. I started asking them at 9 o'clock last night when we saw this published in the Federal Register. And what they're saying now almost feels like walking back, but bear with me here when we hear this. They said this is not a final rule. It is simply the first step in starting a discussion to have new policy options to keep the American people safe. So it almost feels like there's been so much blowback.
So wait a second. This feels more like a trial balloon.
Right, which is not usually how the Federal Register is used. Usually that's when they have spoken to their lawyers. The language is exact. There's a policy that they very much feel legally firm to go forward with. Then they do do this comment period, but usually they're going to go forward anyway. There's a 60-day comment period, and then we expect them to implement a rule. But I did notice there were a lot of things that weren't clear. They didn't say how people would submit their social media. Is it just
a printout of your last 5 years of tweets?
Screenshots? I mean, that would be embarrassing, I think, for anyone. But basically, I mean, or is it just your handles? And look, they have looked at social media in the past. Remember, it really began in earnest in the Obama administration, but it was to flag national security threats and anyone who might be doing something illegal. And it was done
more targeted.
It was done as a secondary screening when they already had information on someone that they might be a potential threat. Nothing in that rule last night said what would actually bar someone from coming into the United States. Could it just be having something derogatory about the president on your phone? That wasn't clear. Then when it comes to the World Cup, we asked about that today. In fact, Monica Alba at the White House asked about this. And an administration official told her that there are no carve-outs for anyone coming here for the World Cup. That, yes, they can be fast-tracked through the process, but they would have to submit the same information required of any traveler coming to the United States.
Let me get back to the statement that you literally got in as you were sitting on set 30 seconds before we started talking, because it sounds like, I mean, we don't know here, but we do know the chronology of events. Last night, this rule comes out, right? People found out about it early this morning. There was a tremendous amount of blowback, a lot of questions, to say the least, and concerns about what this would mean. And now here we are, looking at my clock, 5:25 Eastern time. Yeah. You've got them saying, well, this is a proposal. We're starting the conversation, et cetera. Is it a walk back?
It felt like that to me. Now, that came from a CBP spokesperson, and they are the agency responsible for implementing this. All day when I've taken these questions to DHS, they just keep saying not final, not final, not final. But look, could they do something close to this? Possibly, because we've seen iterations of this. We've seen them target foreign students who have spoken out and taken policy positions that are different from the national foreign policy of the United States. We've seen people targeted in that way. This, though, is for people coming from countries that are already on the visa waiver list, like UK, most Western European countries, where we have great law enforcement relationships, and we expect those law enforcement agencies to flag the United States if there's a potential problem coming in. So this was really an extra step that didn't carry a lot of reasoning behind it.
Could you see, if this does get implemented or continue to take the next steps, this controversial policy or proposal, could you see other countries putting pressure on the United States to limit this? Could you see FIFA put pressure on the United States to limit this? Like, are those options?
And then just the tourism industry. If you think about the fact that the tourism industry in the United States has already taken a $12 billion hit just this year, and a lot of people say that they're worried about coming to the United States because of these immigration policies, perhaps those people not only would put pressure, but could bring real legal pressure.
Julia Ainsley, it has been an evening of real-time breaking news. Thank you very much for bringing us that as you've been here. Appreciate that. We've also got to get you to New York, where a federal judge is now saying even more material can be released in that sex trafficking case against Jeffrey Epstein from 2019. That judge now given a green light to the DOJ to unseal grand jury records in the case that ultimately sent Epstein to prison. Now, judges in the other investigation against Epstein down in Florida and the case against his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, separate case but related, putting out the same decision, meaning we're going to see all these grand jury documents and all these so-called buckets of files in the Epstein orbit sometime soon. That's on top of what we've already seen from the Epstein estate, from the DOJ so far, more to come on that front, and as part of a civil settlement as well. NBC News has reached out to the DOJ and to Epstein's estate for comment. We have not yet heard back. Let's bring in Gary Grumbach. So here we have again, for the second day in a row, this signal that, hey, yes, we're going to see more documents. We haven't actually seen the materials yet. And there's a question of what else are we going to learn that's new or not from this?
Yeah, you'd be confused. You'd be forgiven if you were confused about all of these different buckets here, right? We've got 4 different orders that have been released, and this is what's going to end up happening here. The DOJ is going to release about 100,000 pages of material by December 19th. That's because of that Epstein Transparency Act order. Then there's also 3 different judges' orders releasing grand jury material. So things like, for example, searches of the home of Jeffrey Epstein, contents of computers and devices seized by authorities, and then also arrest records, bank records, passenger logs, all kinds of information that we have not necessarily previously seen about not only Jeffrey Epstein, but also Ghislaine Maxwell. Hallie.
Gary Grumbach, thank you very much for staying on top of all that for us. Appreciate it. Also, in just the last hour or so, we've seen President Trump calling for new elections in Ukraine after that country's leader, Volodymyr Zelensky, spoke with U.S. officials earlier today. Watch this. We don't have that. We're going to get it for you. You're seeing President Zelensky. We know that President Zelensky of Ukraine met today earlier with other officials overseas. Ukraine hasn't held elections since Russia launched its full-scale invasion a few years ago, even though the president's term was supposed to expire last year. Zelensky has said he needs America's help to make sure elections are safe. Now, the president, Trump, also said today that Zelensky has invited the U.S. to a meeting in Europe this weekend to keep up those peace talks. Let's bring in Andrea Mitchell, who's covering this for us. I think it's fair to say, Andrea, we've seen a lot of these like little pieces of developments. What do they add up to? Anything?
They add up to the president reverting to his default position before he had in November sanctioned Russian oil companies and expressed frustration, frankly, with Vladimir Putin for not accepting a ceasefire after their Alaska summit. Well, now he's reverting to his default position, blaming Ukraine, the victim, if you will, and not the invader. So he's saying Zelensky has the weaker hand. He doesn't have cards. You know, going back to the language that the president used all the way back in February at that, fateful Oval Office meeting, and saying that Zelensky's got to make a deal. And so they're really pressuring him to make a deal and now to hold elections. Well, Ukraine's parliament says that they can't hold elections in wartime. It's martial law. They don't know when, how can people vote if they don't know when there's going to be a drone coming in and taking out an apartment building or a polling place. So he said today, Zelensky did, that he would hold elections in 3 months if his parliament agrees and if the European leaders agree. The president also got a call today trying to, back up Zelensky from the leaders of the UK, Germany, and France, all, sort of citing, Ukraine's very valid arguments against making territorial concessions and coming to a quick deal. But clearly, President Trump wants a deal, and he wants it now.
Andrea Mitchell, watching all of it for us, our chief foreign correspondent. Thank you very much. Still ahead for us, the prosecution just resting their case in a closely watched Massachusetts trial. What we learned today from close friends about the days and hours leading up to the death of the woman who was allegedly killed by her own husband. Plus, what a delivery person is accused of doing to a family's meal that was not quite on the menu. Ugh, that's next. Let's take you to Massachusetts now, where prosecutors in a courtroom there are resting their case today in the trial of a man who says he dismembered his wife's body out of panic but did not kill her. We heard testimony from the friends of the Walsh family, friends who saw Anna Walsh in the days and hours before she died on New Year's Day 2023. Here's what one friend had to say about the relationship.
She told me that there were cracks in the relationships. And I don't know which words. She may have used precisely those words. She may have used other words.
Remember, Brian Walsh, Anna's husband, has already pleaded guilty to dismembering his wife and lying to police about it. His lawyers say he did it because he panicked in the moment. But again, they say he did not kill her. Robert Goulston with our NBC News station has been covering this in Boston, outside court. He's been there from the jump. And talk about some of the context these friends gave today, especially as the prosecution is now resting its case. Looking ahead to what we'll hear from the defense next.
Hallie, the prosecution made it a point to end their case with the last two people who they say saw Anna Walsh just hours before they say she was murdered. Jem Mutlu was the key witness today. He shared that he was with the couple on New Year's Eve. He had a good night. They were drinking wine and champagne. They even talked about the future, working together. Mutlu used to actually be Anna's previous boss and then became a longtime friend. We also heard from Alyssa Kirby. She is one of Anna's close friends from Washington, D.C. She shared a little bit about what happened when they went out a couple of nights before this alleged murder. She said that Anna was having issues with her marriage and that she was currently in an affair with someone in D.C. She was living down in D.C. while Brian Walsh was still living back in Cohasset, dealing with a federal charge involving art fraud. So right now, the prosecution has rested after 8 days of testimony. The defense will be back up tomorrow. They will start their case. They're not giving a complete context of where they're going to go with this case, but they have said from the start that Anna died in her sleep. So they are going to try to prove that she died with some sort of sudden and unexpected death. Hallie?
We also saw more surveillance video, Robert, today, and we've seen it. You and I talked about this earlier in the week, too, of different moments here. We saw him once at a Home Goods. Today, we've seen this video of Walsh. She's there dressed all in black at a Home Depot the day after Anna died. A receipt shown by prosecutors showed he spent like almost $500 on stuff like buckets, a hatchet, a whole bunch of baking soda. What is the jury supposed to make of this? Because, again, we've seen some of these videos before. Prosecutors have made a point of laying it out. What's the case they're trying to make?
Hallie, yeah, initially he was charged with illegally disposing of the body, dismembering it and then getting rid of the body. But then he admitted to that part of the crime right before this trial started. But yeah, the prosecution still laying out all that circumstantial evidence showing him at the Home Depot on January 2nd. He visited a Lowe's on 2 different occasions, on January 1st and then a couple of days later. But each time he goes in, his demeanor seems very calm. At one point, he was with one of the children. So the jury is going to take all of this information and presumably go through it and just kind of get a sense of where Brian Walsh was at after prosecutors say he killed his wife. Hallie?
Robert Goulston with our NBC station in Boston. Robert, it's good to see you again. Thank you for being on top of all of this as this high-profile trial nears its end. Appreciate that. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the student killed in a shooting at Kentucky State University has now been identified as Dijon Fox Jr. He's 19 years old. We know that the second student is still in critical condition after this active scene we told you about 24 hours ago. A 48-year-old man is facing a murder charge, now being held without bond. The school spokesperson confirms he's the parent of a KSU student, but they're not providing any other details. Number 2, the Trump administration has been ordered to stop deploying National Guard troops to L.A. That decision coming down from a federal judge today who ruled the government has illegally kept troops in L.A. long after intense ICE protests ended. Now, control of those troops are going to be returned to the state. The administration is expected to appeal. Number 3, a food delivery driver in Indiana is accused of dropping off more than a meal. Police say this DoorDasher sprayed something on the bag that she left. And whatever it was, it made a woman really sick, like she was throwing up, she was choking. The homeowners say they didn't see that video before they went and ate their food, but afterwards they noticed some kind of spray on the bag. The sheriff's office says they're investigating. DoorDash in a statement says we have zero tolerance for this type of appalling behavior and that Dasher's access to the platform has been removed. Number 4, the former Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Jen Shah is out of prison more than 4 years early. Remember, after she pleaded guilty to wire fraud charges in 2022. Shah had been accused of running a nationwide telemarketing fraud scheme, defrauding thousands of people. We're told she's been moved to community confinement. Number 5, buzz in the air already for the Met Gala with Beyonce, Venus Williams, Nicole Kidman, Anna Wintour co-chairing the big event. It's not till May, but they like to get people talking early. Sabrina Carpenter and Doja Cat are joining the host committee. We don't know the dress code yet, but it's going to follow the theme of costume art announced last month. Coming up here on the show, the new details into us on the lawsuit against a cruise line about a passenger allegedly attacked by crew members before he died on board. And a car caught on camera speeding down the runway at an airport. How did that happen? We're getting into it next. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Southern Bureau, take a look at this. First, you can see here, actually, a car that ended up basically on a taxiway. Actually, I think this is cows escaping. Yeah, cows escaping in Texas while officials try to wrangle them to safety. Who knew? That's a thing that happened. We still don't know how the driver or the cows are doing, but obviously we're watching that. We're also watching what we were just talking about out of the Midwest, a close call on a highway in North Dakota when a car lost control and barreled towards a deputy who was helping out in a separate accident in the snow. Managed to jump out of the way and avoid what could have been a deadly collision. Both of them are doing just fine. And out of our Western Bureau, a car literally zooming down a runway crowded with planes at an airport in California. The driver was a contract security guard who was taken into custody. He might have been having some kind of medical emergency, according to officials. He's in the hospital and evaluated now by first responders. Also tonight, we're talking about Royal Caribbean being sued over the death of a passenger after being served at least 33 alcoholic drinks. His body placed into a refrigerator on the cruise ship for 3 days until the ship docked, according to the lawsuit. Michael Virgil's family says after he drank, he got lost on the way to his room and got agitated. Watch. Video from another passenger shows Virgil kicking a hallway door after chasing a crew member who'd locked himself in a towel room. The video then shows security guards and others holding him on the floor. We've reached out to Royal Caribbean for comment on the lawsuit, but we haven't heard back. Dana Griffin is following the story for us. What is the family saying now about what they want to see from here?
Yeah, so Hallie, the goal here is to force some sort of systemic change within this industry so that another family doesn't have to experience this sort of loss. Now, the family is obviously suing for damages, which includes loss of support, inheritance, past and future earnings, funeral and medical expenses. And I want to pull out a highlight from this lawsuit. The family describes this as to maximize the revenue. Royal Caribbean deliberately designs its vessels, including the Navigator of the Seas, that's the name of the cruise ship, to ensure that there are alcohol serving stations in every nook and cranny of the ship. Now, that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration there, but what's not an over-exaggeration is how many drinks a person can consume when they buy what's called the deluxe beverage package. That is a package that Virgil opted into, and so it essentially allows passengers access to unlimited beverages. And so that explains why he was able to consume 33 drinks. And I thought, you know, gosh, there's got to be some sort of limit, or maybe that's in the fine print when you actually get on the boat. But when I checked the Royal Caribbean website, it says there is not a daily limit for drinks with the deluxe beverage package. So again, it explains why this passenger was able to drink so much. Obviously, after that scene where you saw him kicking the door, you had crew rush in. They tried to wrestle him to the ground, later sedated him with a drug called haloperidol. That is a sedative used for people with schizophrenia or others with aggressive and impulsive behaviors. The medical examiner ruled Virgil's death a homicide due to a combined effect of mechanical asphyxia, obesity, cardiomegaly, and ethanol intoxication. So no additional comments from Royal Caribbean. They are clearly letting this play out through the legal system. Hallie?
Dana Griffin live for us there in Southern California with that. Dana, thank you very much. Still ahead for us tonight, why the leader of the Venezuelan opposition party was a no-show at her own Nobel Peace Prize ceremony today. We have been following that breaking news of that oil tanker seized off the coast of Venezuela in a major escalation of the Trump administration's pressures in the Caribbean. You see the video here. It's just coming into us in the last 45 minutes or so. You saw it in real time at the top of the show. The video from the Trump administration released by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, showing this operation off the coast of Venezuela. Again, an escalation, no matter how you slice it. All of it happening as you've got the Venezuelan opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, skipping out on her own Nobel Peace Prize ceremony where she was expected to accept that award. There's a bit of mystery hanging over the ceremony in Norway earlier today. You see it here. Well, this is her daughter actually accepting the prize for her with a giant portrait hanging overhead. Remember, Machado is barred from leaving Venezuela. She spent more than a year in hiding ever since the president of that country, Nicolas Maduro, declared himself the winner of last year's election that many called rigged. There's a lot of fear and a high risk that Machado could be arrested by Venezuelan officials if she's seen out in public. With President Trump reacting to that in just the last few hours, saying he's not so into that idea. Raf Sanchez is on this story for us. And here's another thread in this multi-layered story that we've been following related to tensions with Venezuela, this escalation in the Caribbean, all of it in this coincidental split screen with the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony today and the opposition leader remaining in hiding.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. And this is a reminder of the authoritarian and repressive nature of the government in Venezuela. The Nobel Peace Prize winner has been in hiding for the last 16 months. She was last seen very briefly in January, and she has been subjected to a travel ban. Venezuelan authorities say she is not allowed to leave the country. Despite all of that, her daughter, when she was accepting the Peace Prize earlier today, says that her mother is, in fact, on her way to Norway. She says that a number of people, quote, risked their lives to spirit her out of Venezuela to get her on that plane to Oslo. She has not yet appeared there, but she clearly has made the calculation that it is worth making this risky trip to Norway partly for political reasons. This is a chance to shine a global spotlight on the situation in Venezuela, on the struggle for democracy there. But Hallie, also for personal reasons. She hasn't seen much of her family in 2 years now. Her daughter getting quite emotional as she read that speech out from her mother earlier. So really, the whole world is very closely watching now to see if Maria Corina Machado does in fact materialize in Oslo. If she does, what she has to say, because this will be our first chance to hear from her in nearly a year at this point. And then if she follows through on her promise to return to Venezuela, where authorities say they are waiting to arrest her, what happens there? I want to play you just a little bit of sound from the daughter's speech in Oslo earlier today.
This award is for you, for the Venezuelan who is in the country, who keeps fighting for our future, for all of us who are out of the country, for the Venezuelan who left and can no longer see their family, for those that can't come back, for the Venezuelan who is oppressed under the regime.
And Hallie, as you say, this drama in Norway at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony playing out at the same time. You have this very high-stakes action being taken by the Trump administration seizing that tanker off the Venezuelan coast.
It also, Raph, very vividly speaks to the dangers of potentially leading an opposition against Maduro in Venezuela right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is a government that was already authoritarian, already repressive, and you can imagine it is a lot more paranoid, and it is really clamping down given the kind of pressure that the Trump administration is subjecting it to right now. Sanctions, closing of airspace, seizing the oil tanker, and those strikes that we have been seeing on what the Trump administration claims, without a whole lot of evidence, are these boats, narco boats allegedly heading from Venezuela. So a lot of geopolitical factors all kind of coming together here. It is worth saying, Hallie, that Machado is in some ways kind of a controversial Nobel Peace Prize laureate because she is an open advocate for American military intervention to topple the Maduro government in Venezuela. Hallie.
Raph Sanchez, thank you very much for that reporting. Still ahead for us, what officials from Egypt and Iran are saying about playing a match to honor LGBTQ plus Pride Month in next year's World Cup. So local World Cup organizers say they are going to move forward with Pride events outside the stadium, even after some backlash from two countries at the center of this key match here. Egypt and Iran are set to face off in Seattle in June in a match that's supposed to honor Washington's LGBTQ plus communities, something soccer federations are really pushing back on right now, sending official complaints to FIFA. Egypt's soccer federation says it rejects any activities, I'm quoting here, related to supporting homosexuality during the match, arguing that's at odds with the country's cultural values, where being gay is not directly outlawed, but it's very seriously policed. And in Iran, where gay people can face the death penalty, they're backing up Egypt, with its soccer head calling the move unreasonable. Refs for FIFA declined to comment on those complaints. Aaron Gilchrist is covering this one because there's an intense fascination with all things World Cup. Obviously, you've got this Pride Month match intended to sort of honor the LGBTQ plus community in that area. What do we know about why the World Cup would pick these two countries to play that match? Any other response, et cetera?
So the World Cup folks, FIFA would say that they have a very detailed technical process for figuring out who plays where and when. They went through a list of conditions talking about things about like minimizing the amount of travel that different teams and fans have to do to get to some of these games, trying to maximize the number of rest days that players and their support teams would have between matches. They talked about considering things like the global reach and the time zones of people who would be watching some of these games. They looked at technical things about the venues themselves, whether they are in what the temperature is in places where they're located in terms of how that might affect people from different countries. They looked at air conditioning. They looked at broadcasting and ticket sales and things of that nature. All that, FIFA says, are things considered that are considered in figuring out the schedule that you see on the screen there in terms of who plays where and when. Now, the events for Pride Month, which will be happening in major cities all around the country in June, will still go on in Seattle. The organizing committee there putting out a statement that says the Pacific Northwest is home to one of the nation's largest Iranian American communities and a thriving Egyptian diaspora and rich communities representing all nations we're hosting in Seattle. We're committed to ensuring all residents and visitors experience the warmth, respect, and dignity that defines our region. One last thing I'll note for you, Hallie. FIFA, in talking about this grid that they put out over the weekend, did say that the final version of the match schedule will be out in March of next year. So is it possible that there could be some changes to the schedule here? It's a possibility. There's another game being played in Vancouver that same day between Belgium and New Zealand. So we'll see if there's a change that comes.
This is also tricky for FIFA, right? I mean, there were some, I remember 2022 in Qatar where there were some cultural conflicts then for the games there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And FIFA backed Qatar at that time, saying that people visiting the host country needed to respect their customs and their cultural norms was the term that FIFA used back then. You may remember there were some European countries who wanted to wear armbands that were supportive of human rights and diversity. And the folks in Qatar said that was really a criticism of some of the Qatari rules around same-sex relationships in that country. And so, Hallie, it would be a double standard if they were willing to change just because they've gotten these complaints.
Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And that does it for us. Thank you, as always, for watching what has been a busy Wednesday evening. We've got more coverage picking up right now. We are coming on the air tonight with what looks like a significant escalation in the White House's military flex against Venezuela. The brand new video just into us of Coast Guard members seizing what appears to be the Coast Guard seizing an oil tanker. We've also seen an aircraft carrier, jets, tens of thousands of U.S. troops in the region. We've got team coverage on this developing news. Then Wall Street closing today, rallying after the Fed slashed interest rates, trying to walk that tightrope between keeping inflation down and employment up. Our reporter in the room to press the Fed chair will join us live in just a second. Plus, the state of emergency just declared late tonight as that closely watched flood threat swamps the West Coast. The dramatic evacuations and dangerous rock slides, with experts warning the worst is yet to come. And the White House's controversial new proposal to require foreign tourists to turn over their social media histories if they want to get into the country. How they're planning on doing that and what it means ahead of the very busy World Cup in just a few months. Then the emotional testimony as prosecutors in a Massachusetts courtroom rest their case in the trial of a man who says he dismembered his wife's body out of panic, but did not kill her. That's coming up a little bit later in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and it has been a busy evening already. In just the last hour, we're getting brand new video in of the seizure of an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela and what amounts to a dramatic escalation of the tension building in the Caribbean. Here's that video for you here. You see it on the side of your screen. It's been posted by the Attorney General in just the last hour. So here it is. You can see it. We're going to pull it full. She has said the FBI, Homeland Security, and the Coast Guard executed a seizure for this crude oil tanker, which is used to transport oil from Venezuela and Iran. And they obviously say that it was sanctioned oil that they're talking about here. You can see some of these people rappelling from a chopper down onto the tanker. And the president confirming, yes, this is the U.S. He announced it just about 2 hours before this video emerged. Watch this.
We've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening.
This is coming on the heels of a series of strikes that the U.S. has conducted in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific on different boats, right? These are much smaller, like so-called drug boats, allegedly. That's what the administration says. The president has justified those strikes by saying the U.S. is in an armed conflict with drug cartels. He says his team has said that those strikes on those boats we just showed you are on so-called narco-terrorists. But the U.S. has built up a big military presence in the region. You've seen the president threaten possible land strikes. All of it coming just about 24 hours after the president shared his thinking on the next steps here.
So how far would you go to take Maduro out of office?
I don't want to say that,
But you want to see him out?
His days are numbered.
There's a lot here. I want to bring in Monica Alba, who's covering this from the North Lawn of the White House. Courtney Cubie, our Pentagon correspondent, is here with us on set. Courtney, let me start with you because this video has been out for all of, 59 minutes. And I know that there were some questions around who specifically was involved in this, how this happened. I want to pull up that video again. It's in remarkably clear detail, and I don't mean from a production quality perspective, but I mean from just the sort of sequencing of events. This is coming to us, by the way, fully edited, obviously, from the Trump administration.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can see a lot of edits here. Now, what we have learned in the last 57 minutes or so since we first got this is that we believe that is a U.S. Navy helicopter there. It's most likely a Seahawk. That's basically we hear a lot about Black Hawks, right? This is essentially the Navy version of a Black Hawk. But the people who repelled down from it, we now know are members of the U.S. Coast Guard. They're part of this elite group. They're known as the MSRT, Maritime Security Response. I can never team. That's it. You get an A for your acronyms.
I only know that because you texted it to me earlier.
Okay,
so I'm just repeating your words back to you.
So these are elite groups, and they are literally trained for this exact kind of thing that we're watching on screen here. They're trained in high-risk boardings. They're trained in counterterrorism operations. So this would be something that would be made for them. What's really critical here is, yes, the Department of Defense was supporting this, as we heard we saw in the tweet from Attorney General Pam Bondi, but because they were there on active duty orders, or essentially under Title 10 orders, they are not allowed to board the tanker because it is a law enforcement or action. So that's why we know that they were in support. But the actual people who are on that tanker there you see are members of the Coast Guard.
Is it interesting to you that the FBI would have had some degree of involvement here?
So we also learned from this tweet that this was executing some sort of a warrant. We're still trying to figure that out. We don't have the name of this tanker yet. We don't know that. They're calling it a stateless vessel at this point, but at some point we should get a sense of exactly who owns this thing. We know it was not far off of Venezuela, according to both this tweet and then according to President Trump earlier today. But again, we still, and again, the tweet is also alleging that it was in some way sanctioned by the U.S. We just don't have any details on that yet.
And the sanctions related to Venezuela, but Iran as well, Monica, which is an important detail that we got in just the last hour on all this, right?
Exactly, Hallie, and I think this is sort of the broader point. The fact that we're seeing this escalation, we're seeing this move today, does signal where this pressure campaign is overall when it comes to the Trump administration's actions against Venezuela and in the region more broadly. And the reason we talk about that as being significant is because the president has been hinting at this additional action for some days now, and he hasn't even ruled out additional moves, additional action, perhaps some strikes on land, which he has been teasing in the last couple of days. But he also has just referenced in what you were talking about, this idea that there are going to be other things to come that you're going to see in connection with this, which we don't know what exactly that is. But certainly we know that there have been other options that the president has been considering over the last days and weeks. And now even the president has broadened that out to include a warning to the leaders of other countries. Specifically, he had one for the leader of Colombia today, who he has also been talking about in recent days as potentially being someone who will see some kind of a response from the United States as well. Here's what he had to say specifically to the president of Colombia.
He's been fairly hostile to the United States, and I haven't given him a lot of thought. He's going to have himself some big problems if he doesn't wise up.
So all of this, Hallie, also raises these questions about the Trump administration's justification for why they have continued these boat strikes. We know certainly that in their view, they like to say that these are alleged drug boats, that they are carrying drugs that they say are destined for the United States. They also say that these are so-called narco-terrorists, and that is what is justifying all of this. But again, there's an idea here that there could be an escalation that wouldn't just be related to Venezuela, but even more broader in the region, in the Caribbean as well. And that is, of course, something we're trying to get more details on tonight.
Sure. And Court, to that point, just quickly here, it is entirely within the realm of possibility that we'll hear more from officials about this tomorrow in the hours and the days to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And Monica's absolutely right about this being a pressure campaign, right? We've seen the military pressure. We've seen the pressure on these drug boats, the alleged drug boats they've been taking strikes on. Now this does appear like the president, the administration is moving this into also an economic pressure as well. And that's what we're seeing here. If, in fact, remember, Venezuela sells the vast majority of their oil ultimately to China. If they're cutting off their oil, they're cutting off money to the government and ultimately to Maduro.
Courtney Kube, Monica Alba, never a dull on both of your beats. Thank you very much for being with us. Much more to follow. We're going to have more ahead, too, on the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, the leader of Venezuela there, and the Nobel Peace Prize opposition leader, winner, and her no-show at Norway today. We'll explain coming up in just a bit. Also tonight, we got to get to our other big headline related to your money. and how much it means to you, because look at Wall Street rallying late today after the Fed cut interest rates, right, for the third time this year. Look at this, green, 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 big surge for the Dow there. So read the tea leaves here from what you heard from the Fed chair, hinting this may be one of the last cuts we see for a while, predicting costs will keep going up because of the president's tariffs. It's hard to tell what the impacts really are right now, right, because there's a lot of data we don't have. Why? It wasn't reported during that historically long government shutdown. That's a big deal because it means the Fed, it means the central bank does not have all of those puzzle pieces to know how the economy is actually doing. Remember, the October jobs report was canceled altogether. The one for November is not going to come out until at least next week. It's kind of the same deal with a key inflation report, which is also going to come out late. But the data we do have coming from private companies, not the government, shows the labor market slowing down. And the price people are paying for the stuff they need ticking up. Look at that. Electricity, gas, car insurance, housing, groceries even. That said, the president still insists, even in just the last few hours, that his economic vision is working.
I inherited, very simply, the highest prices in history, and I'm bringing them down really fast.
I want to bring in Christine Romans here in Washington for that Fed meeting, Christine. So this rate cut, you kind of previewed it. It wasn't totally unexpected that this was coming down the pipeline, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, we thought that the Fed might cut interest rates here because they're concerned about the job market. The job market's been softening a little bit, and the Fed chief said that here today. And what it means really for consumer rates, for people out there who are maybe borrowing money for a car or for on a personal loan,
a mortgage, maybe right.
Eventually mortgages, those rates are likely going to be a little bit better. But for those of you who are savers, you know, been paid because they've been putting money away and they're getting high yield savings accounts, well, you might get a little bit less return on that. But look, people are exhausted by inflation, and the Fed basically is saying the U.S. economy is pretty well positioned. And I asked the Fed chief, you know, like, wait a second here. Talk to me a little bit about this disconnect in the economy.
Yeah,
you've got wealthy people driving most of the spending, and a lot of other people. We've been hearing complaints about these prices for some time. This is what he said.
How sustainable is this so-called K-shaped economy, and what are the Fed's thoughts on whether that's a risk going forward?
So we do, through our vast network of contacts and just through our observation of what's going on in the economy, we hear about this a lot. As how sustainable it is, I don't know.
So, you know, they're talking about it. And he said, you know, it's clearly a thing.
It's so interesting.
I know. And he said, I said to him, he said, you listen to these conference calls from all these different companies, and these CEOs are saying, yes, hey, wait, by the way, people who are paycheck to paycheck people, wow, they are tightening their belt. He said tightening their belt is really a thing.
But the people who make a ton of money are spending a ton of money.
They absolutely are.
Yeah.
So that's the case. Like, if you think of the letter K, I mean, for anybody who does, hopefully I'm not being too wonky.
You're not.
If you think about the letter K, there's this part that's doing very, very well and this part that's not. This is low income. This is high income.
I wouldn't say that Jay Powell is known for his spicy comments, right? I don't know that that's a word that often uses to describe him, but he does tend to give some hints, some tea leaves that he drops about where the economy is headed. And I'm really interested in this tariffs piece, right? Because this is something that you've been covering for a year now. What does he say about that, the impact into next year? Where's the economy going?
He says all of the overshoot, as he says, on inflation.
That's not English. What does that mean?
The reason why inflation is higher than it's supposed to be right now is because of tariffs. And he said you can see it in all of the tariff categories. But he says it's a one-time thing. The Federal Reserve economists think that it's a one-time adjustment, these tariffs. And then once we get through that, inflation will start to be a little more closer to normal. And in fact, closer to normal sometime next year, maybe 2.4%, which would be an improvement from what we're seeing right now. So the tariff piece, he's very clear on what the tariffs mean for inflation right now, but he says we will get through it. And he has a more optimistic view of things for next year for jobs and for inflation.
That's good news, I think, because the TLDR question, I think, for a lot of folks is, okay, Christine, when is my stuff going to get cheaper?
Yeah.
That's what people want to know.
I mean, I'm going to be really Debbie Downer. I don't think things are going to get cheaper. They're just going to not go up as quickly. That's what, in a healthy economy, that's what you're looking for.
All right. I mean, listen, it is what it is. Christine Romans, I like your red blazer. Thank you very much for being on with us today. Appreciate it.
Too long didn't red.
Seriously. In just the last couple of hours, we got to take you in the West because the Washington governor, the state of Washington, declaring a state of emergency now with that, you know, that atmospheric river, the flood threat, it is pummeling the Pacific Northwest. Look at this. 18 rivers in Washington are on track to hit a major flood stage. You're seeing one of those rivers here. 3 people whose house was flooding right near one of the rivers was rescued by Eastside Fire and Rescue crews today. Look at that. In Oregon, just north of Portland, residents at an RV park raced to higher ground as floodwaters started surging in. Look at that. It's coming in so quickly. Listen.
I got up, do my regular routine, made some breakfast, watched the news for a minute, didn't hear anything about it, and stepped outside and noticed my mat was floating. I saw it looked like a river running through here, so I hooked everything up, hooked up my trailer to my truck and got it up on the main road out here, and was able to move it to another park.
The landslide threat is spiking now. It's at what maybe its highest level of the season. Look at this rock slide in Stanley, Idaho. It blocked the road, so crews are working to try to clear that. I want to bring in Bridget Chavez now from NBC affiliate King 5 in Snoqualmie, Washington. We're glad to have you, Bridget. With so many people in your area now, 6 million people under flood watches tonight. And I know you're standing in front of a place where the ground was saturated and just slid right away.
Yeah, exactly. We're close to that area. We're about 45 minutes east of Seattle and Snoqualmie. This is the Snoqualmie River. This is one of those rivers that you mentioned that is expected to crest tonight. You can just see how high those levels are. There are so many road closures all around here. We've been turned around multiple times. I want to show you the road closure here behind me. There have been dozens of cars that we've been seeing just trying to get back through here. There's flooded waters back there. We heard today from a bus driver who had to call all of the families that they take to school in the morning, and he had to call them and tell them there was no way that these buses were getting through. So lots of kids had to stay home from school today. We had a bunch of this happening, just kind of causing havoc and chaos all around the Puget Sound today, all over western Washington. And as you mentioned, we've seen a lot of rescues as well. So earlier this afternoon, crews in Mason County rescued a driver and his cat. That was after their vehicle was submerged in floodwaters. And West Mason Fire says that that call came in around 3:45, and that's a stretch of road that is typically one that floods pretty often. Crews had to use their flood rescue truck to pull the driver and that cat out safely. They took a driver to that nearby motel to dry off there, and the fire chief says that they're urging people just not to go around these road closures because it's extremely dangerous. And back here in King County, where we are, Eastside Fire and Rescue pulled 3 adults and a dog from a flooded home that was along Middle Fork Snoqualmie River this morning. So that's a little further from where we are. So back out here where we are, again, we're not very far from I-90. That's where that massive landslide just happened within the last couple of hours. That closure is still in effect. We're actually stuck on this side of the freeway because we can't make it back into Seattle at this point, just because that area is completely closed off. We're hoping that we can get access there later with state troopers, but at this point, again, it's just a wait and see situation. And as you mentioned, things are only supposed to be getting worse as the evening goes on.
And that's the scary part. Bridget Chavez out there in what is still a very active and developing situation from our Seattle station. Bridget, thank you very much for being with us. Back here in Washington tonight, you've got the Trump administration rolling out a new plan that would require foreign tourists to turn over their social media histories if they want to get into the country. Under this plan, this proposal, even people from countries that don't require a visa, so that's like the UK or Germany, they would have to show the last 5 years of what they've been up to online to Customs and Border Protection on their socials. It's just a few months, think about it, from the World Cup that's going to draw people from all around the world to cities all over the country. Let's get to Gabe Gutierrez now in Minneapolis, where this immigration crackdown, a separate immigration crackdown, is going down. And let's talk about this social media history thing, because there's a lot of questions around it. How do you do it? What kind of stuff do you have to show? What are they looking for? And what happens if they find something they don't like?
Well, Hallie, there are a lot of questions about that social media policy. And it was just, we just learned about that over the last 24 hours or so that the Trump administration was hoping to do this. And you're right, it does bring up a lot of questions, especially with the World Cup just several months away. And we're asking the White House for some of those questions. But here in Minneapolis, we're here for Operation Metro Surge. This is what the administration is calling this immigration crackdown that began just on December 1st. And we're just learning from ICE officials that they've so far made more than 400 arrests since the start of the month, and around 50 arrests today. You see there some of our video from the exclusive access we got earlier today. Now, this operation began before dawn. There have been several challenges here. Chief among them, perhaps, Hallie, the frigid cold. The temperatures here are certainly below freezing, and there was a big snowstorm last night. So there have been significant challenges for the ICE agents here. Of course, there has also been significant backlash for some of these operations. Members of the Somali community here in the Twin Cities, which is, of course, the largest in the country, they have been criticizing this operation, and they claim that ICE is targeting them. However, I did speak with ICE officials today. They insist this is not an operation just targeting the Somali community, that is targeting all undocumented immigrants that are here, especially those that have final orders of removal. But Hallie, as you know, this all comes amid the escalating rhetoric from Washington. And just last night, President Trump escalating his rhetoric against Somalia. Hallie.
Gabe Gutierrez live for us there in Minneapolis with plenty of threads to follow. Gabe, we're glad to have you on the ground out there. We appreciate you doing that reporting. A federal judge in New York tonight now says that more stuff can be released in the 2019 sex trafficking case against Jeffrey Epstein, giving a green light, basically, to this DOJ request to unseal grand jury records in the case that ultimately sent Epstein to prison. Judges in the other investigation against Epstein down in Florida and separately but relatedly a case against his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, they've come to the same decision, which means there's going to be more materials that we're going to see. We just don't know what specifically those documents will contain, how much new information we're going to get from them. They're all part of these so-called buckets of files in the Epstein orbit. You've got documents we've already seen from the Epstein estate that have been released by Congress. You've got documents released and to be released from the DOJ. You've got civil documents, too. NBC is out to the Justice Department and to the Epstein estate for comment. We haven't yet heard back. I want to bring in Gary Grumbach now. So let's talk about this decision today by the judge in New York. The 2019 case against Epstein is the one that sent him to prison, right, or sent him to trial, basically. What can we learn from these documents and when?
So there is going to be a big tranche of documents that is going to be released. We don't know when. We do know that the DOJ has to release 100,000 documents by December 19th. This could come at any time before or after that. What might be included in these documents includes grand jury transcripts and then a ton of discovery material, meaning the stuff that you hear about during a trial, things like government searches of the physical locations that Jeffrey Epstein lived and his island, contents of computers, the electronic devices that were seized from Jeffrey Epstein himself and from where he lived, and then also arrest records, post-arrest statements, financial records, private airline passenger logs, information that some of it we may have already seen, but some may be new, and it'll be up to us to sort of go through all of that and see what is new and what is not. But we are certainly looking at tens of thousands of pages of new documents, new materials when this is all released. And it's important because the judge today made a very big point to say about 1,000 victims of Jeffrey Epstein that exist around the country will be kept safe here, right? Their names will be protected, their identities will be protected, and that is a huge part of what the judge here and what the judges across the country have said as it relates to this issue.
Those survivors, Gary, and you know we've spoken to a number of them, a dozen plus. Many of them say they want to see more accountability. They want to see more transparency. They also say, obviously, protecting privacy is critical and paramount here. It sounds like that is a message that is being heard.
It is a message that's being heard, and you were there at that big press conference outside on Capitol Hill when many of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein wanted that bill passed, signed into law, because they did want this information out in the public, but they also do want to be kept safe. And we do have a quote from the judge today saying, quote, this release cannot come at the expense of the privacy, safety, and protection of sexual abuse and sex trafficking victims. That's U.S. District Judge Richard Berman there today. Hallie.
Gary Grumbach, thank you very much for that. Appreciate you being on top of this one. And just to be clear, Gary, before we let you go, I got to be clear. You talk about that December 19th deadline. That is separate, right? That is a separate deadline that the DOJ faces that is congressionally mandated. That's different from the release of these grand jury materials that the judge is talking about, right?
That's right, and it's all because of that Epstein Transparency Act. Yep. That is why that DOJ release is happening, and then the judge's rulings are because of the act.
Appreciate you. Gary Grumbach, thanks. In just the last couple of hours, we've seen President Trump call for new elections in Ukraine, saying, in his words, it's time to get that war settled. That's after the Ukrainian leader, Volodymyr Zelensky, talked with U.S. officials earlier today. Ukraine hasn't held elections since Russia launched that invasion a few years back, even though Zelensky's term was supposed to expire last year. He has said he needs America's help to make sure elections are safe. President Trump today also says Zelensky has invited the U.S. to a meeting in Europe this weekend to continue peace talks. Let's bring in Andrea Mitchell, who's covering for this for us. It's glad to have you here on set. It feels like there's a little bit of gas that's hit on the progress towards peace. Then the brakes, then gas, then brakes. Where are we? Wednesday, 6 p.m. Where are we?
Zelensky is in trouble because Donald Trump wants a deal, and he wants it now. And Zelensky is trying to get a better deal. He's been negotiating with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and it's heavily favoring Russia still, even though it's better than it was. And now the president is saying he should hold elections. Well, there's a law there that you can't hold elections in wartime. People can't vote. They don't know if a drone is coming.
Sure. Will they be safe? Yeah.
So he says he will hold elections in 3 months if his parliament agrees and if European allies agree. You know, there is a law against elections during wartime.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's being pressed by the president to make concessions, big concessions, territorial concessions to Russia, and not get the security guarantees that he had expected.
What do we think is going to come out of these talks this weekend with European officials, U.S. officials?
Well,
We've seen this movie play.
And the president has said, let's wait and see. He's not committing to the talks this weekend. He got a call today from the leaders of the UK, France, and Germany arguing for Zelensky. But the problem is they are not the best allies to have right now. They're his only real allies.
Yeah.
But right now, they are the targets of strong criticism from the U.S. in this new national security document, criticizing these very leaders for being weak, for destroying European culture, for allowing too much migration. An extraordinary document that basically says that the U.S. is no longer committed to protecting them, to defending them against Russia, and praises Russia and China in other ways. So it's turning everything upside down, and Zelensky is the person sort of hanging in the middle, and it looks like he has a very weak hand to play.
And all of it, by the way, Andrea, as it's not as though there's some ceasefire. The attacks from Russia continue to keep up.
And the default position by Donald Trump seems to be to blame the aggressor, the invader, not the victim.
Andrea Mitchell, thank you very much. We're glad to have you with us, our chief foreign affairs correspondent. Appreciate that. We've got a lot more to get to here on the show, including the prosecution in a high-profile Massachusetts case, resting now their case in the trial of Brian Walsh. What we learned today from close friends about the days and hours leading up to the death of his wife, who he says he dismembered but didn't kill. Plus, what a delivery person is accused of doing to one family's meal that was certainly not on the menu. Wait to hear about that. Let's take you to Massachusetts now, where prosecutors in a courtroom there are resting their case today in the trial of a man who says he dismembered his wife's body out of panic but did not kill her. We heard testimony from the friends of the Walsh family, friends who saw Anna Walsh in the days and hours before she died on New Year's Day 2023. Here's what one friend had to say about the relationship.
She told me that there were cracks in the relationships. And I don't know which words. She may have used precisely those words. She may have used other words.
Remember, Brian Walsh, Anna's husband, has already pleaded guilty to dismembering his wife and lying to police about it. His lawyers say he did it because he panicked in the moment. But again, they say he did not kill her. Robert Goulston with our NBC News station has been covering this in Boston, outside court. He's been there from the jump. And talk about some of the context these friends gave today, especially as the prosecution is now resting its case, looking ahead to what we'll hear from the defense next.
Hallie, the prosecution made it a point to end their case with the last two people who they say saw Anna Walsh just hours before they say she was murdered. Jem Mutlu was the key witness today. He shared that he was with the couple on New Year's Eve. He had a good night. They were drinking wine and champagne. They even talked about the future, working together. Mutlu used to actually be Anna's previous boss and then became a longtime friend. We also heard from Alyssa Kirby. She is one of Anna's close friends from Washington, D.C. She shared a little bit about what happened when they went out a couple of nights before this alleged murder. She said that Anna was having issues with her marriage and that she was currently in an affair with someone in D.C. She was living down in D.C. while Brian Walsh was still living back in Cohasset, dealing with a federal charge involving art fraud. So right now, the prosecution has rested after 8 days of testimony. The defense will be back up tomorrow. They will start their case. They're not giving a complete context of where they're going to go with this case, but they have said from the start that Anna died in her sleep. So they're going to try to prove that she died with some sort of sudden and unexpected death. Hallie?
We also saw more surveillance video, Robert, today, and we've seen it. You and I talked about this earlier in the week, too, of different moments here. We saw him once at a Home Goods. Today, we've seen this video of Walsh. He's there dressed all in black at a Home Depot the day after Anna died. A receipt shown by prosecutors showed he spent like almost $500 on stuff like buckets, a hatchet, a whole bunch of baking soda. What is the jury supposed to make of this? Because, again, we've seen some of these videos before. Prosecutors have made a point of laying it out. What's the case they're trying to make?
Hallie, initially he was charged with illegally disposing of the body, dismembering it and then getting rid of the body. But then he admitted to that part of the crime right before this trial started. But the prosecution still laying out all that circumstantial evidence showing him at the Home Depot on January 2nd. He visited a Lowe's on 2 different occasions, on January 1st and then a couple of days later. But each time he goes in, his demeanor seems very calm. At one point, he was with one of the children. So the jury is going to take all of this information and presumably go through it and just kind of get a sense of where Brian Walsh was at after prosecutors say he killed his wife. Hallie?
Robert Goulston with our NBC station in Boston. Robert, it's good to see you again. Thank you for being on top of all of this as this high-profile trial nears its end. Appreciate that. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the student killed in a shooting at Kentucky State University has now been identified as Dijon Fox Jr. He's 19 years old. We know that the second student is still in critical condition after this active scene we told you about 24 hours ago. A 48-year-old man is facing a murder charge, now being held without bond. The school spokesperson confirms he's the parent of a KSU student, but they're not providing any other details. Number 2, the Trump administration has been ordered to stop deploying National Guard troops to L.A. That decision coming down from a federal judge today who ruled the government has illegally kept troops in L.A. long after intense ICE protests ended. Now, control of those troops are going to be returned to the state. The administration is expected to appeal. Number 3, a food delivery driver in Indiana is accused of dropping off more than a meal. Police say this DoorDasher sprayed something on the bag that she left. And whatever it was, it made a woman really sick, like she was throwing up, she was choking. The homeowners say they didn't see that video before they went and ate their food, but afterwards they noticed some kind of spray on the bag. The sheriff's office says they're investigating. DoorDash in a statement says we have zero tolerance for this type of appalling behavior and that Dasher's access to the platform has been removed. Number 4, the former Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Jen Shah is out of prison more than 4 years early. Remember, after she pleaded guilty to wire fraud charges in 2022. Shah had been accused of running a nationwide telemarketing fraud scheme, defrauding thousands of people. We're told she's been moved to community confinement. Number 5, buzz in the air already for the Met Gala with Beyonce, Venus Williams, Nicole Kidman, Anna Wintour co-chairing the big event. It's not till May, but they like to get people talking early. Sabrina Carpenter and Doja Cat are joining the host committee. We don't know the dress code yet, but it's going to follow the theme of costume art announced last month. Coming up here on the show, the new details into us on the lawsuit against a cruise line about a passenger allegedly attacked by crew members before he died on board. And a car caught on camera speeding down the runway at an airport. How did that happen? We're getting into it next. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Southern Bureau, take a look at this. First, you can see here, actually, a car that ended up basically on a taxiway. Actually, I think this is cows escaping. Yeah, cows escaping in Texas while officials try to wrangle them to safety. Who knew? That's a thing that happened. We still don't know how the driver or the cows are doing, but obviously we're watching that. We're also watching what we were just talking about out of the Midwest, a close call on a highway in North Dakota when a car lost control and barreled towards a deputy who was helping out in a separate accident in the snow. Managed to jump out of the way and avoid what could have been a deadly collision. Both of them are doing just fine. And out of our Western Bureau, a car literally zooming down a runway crowded with planes at an airport in California. The driver was a contract security guard who was taken into custody. He might have been having some kind of medical emergency, according to officials. He's in the hospital and evaluated now by first responders. Also tonight, we're talking about Royal Caribbean being sued over the death of a passenger after being served at least 33 alcoholic drinks. His body placed into a refrigerator on the cruise ship for 3 days until the ship docked, according to the lawsuit. Michael Virgil's family says after he drank, he got lost on the way to his room and got agitated. Watch. Video from another passenger shows Virgil kicking a hallway door after chasing a crew member who'd locked himself in a towel room. The video then shows security guards and others holding him on the floor. We've reached out to Royal Caribbean for comment on the lawsuit, but we haven't heard back. Dana Griffin is following the story for us. What is the family saying now about what they want to see from here?
Yeah, so Hallie, the goal here is to force some sort of systemic change within this industry so that another family doesn't have to experience this sort of loss. Now, the family is obviously suing for damages, which includes loss of support, inheritance, past and future earnings, funeral and medical expenses. And I want to pull out a highlight from this lawsuit. The family describes this as to maximize the revenue. Royal Caribbean deliberately designs its vessels, including the Navigator of the Seas, that's the name of the cruise ship, to ensure that there are alcohol serving stations in every nook and cranny of the ship. Now, that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration there, but what's not an over-exaggeration is how many drinks a person can consume when they buy what's called the deluxe beverage package. That is a package that Virgil opted into, and so it essentially allows passengers access to unlimited beverages. And so that explains why he was able to consume 33 drinks. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be some sort of limit, or maybe that's in the fine print when you actually get on the boat. But when I checked the Royal Caribbean website, it says there is not a daily limit for drinks with the deluxe beverage package. So again, it explains why this passenger was able to drink so much. Obviously, after that scene where you saw him kicking the door, you had crew rush in. They tried to wrestle him to the ground, later sedated him with a drug called haloperidol. That is a sedative used for people with schizophrenia or others with aggressive and impulsive behaviors. The medical examiner ruled Virgil's death a homicide due to a combined effect of mechanical asphyxia, obesity, cardiomegaly, and ethanol intoxication. So no additional comments from Royal Caribbean. They are clearly letting this play out through the legal system. Hallie?
Dana Griffin live for us there in Southern California with that. Dana, thank you very much. Still ahead for us tonight, why the leader of the Venezuelan opposition party was a no-show at her own Nobel Peace Prize ceremony today. We have been following that breaking news of that oil tanker seized off the coast of Venezuela in a major escalation of the Trump administration's pressures in the Caribbean. You see the video here. It's just coming into us in the last 45 minutes or so. You saw it in real time at the top of the show. The video from the Trump administration released by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, showing this operation off the coast of Venezuela. Again, an escalation, no matter how you slice it. All of it happening as you've got the Venezuelan opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, skipping out on her own Nobel Peace Prize ceremony, where she was expected to accept that award. There's a bit of mystery hanging over the ceremony in Norway earlier today. You see it here. Well, this is her daughter actually accepting the prize for her with a giant portrait hanging overhead. Remember, Machado is barred from leaving Venezuela. She spent more than a year in hiding ever since the president of that country, Nicolas Maduro, declared himself the winner of last year's election that many called rigged. There's a lot of fear and a high risk that Machado could be arrested by Venezuelan officials if she's seen out in public. With President Trump reacting to that in just the last few hours, saying he's not so into that idea. Raf Sanchez is on this story for us. And here's another thread in this multi-layered story that we've been following related to tensions with Venezuela, this escalation in the Caribbean, all of it in this coincidental split screen with the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony today and the opposition leader remaining in hiding.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. And this is a reminder of the authoritarian and repressive nature of the government in Venezuela. The Nobel Peace Prize winner has been in hiding for the last 16 months. She was last seen very briefly in January, and she has been subjected to a travel ban. Venezuelan authorities say she is not allowed to leave the country. Despite all of that, her daughter, when she was accepting the Peace Prize earlier today, says that her mother is, in fact, on her way to Norway. She says that a number of people, quote, risked their lives to spirit her out of Venezuela to get her on that plane to Oslo. She has not yet appeared there, but she clearly has made the calculation that it is worth making this risky trip to Norway, partly for political reasons. This is a chance to shine a global spotlight on the situation in Venezuela, on the struggle for democracy there. But Hallie, also for personal reasons. She hasn't seen much of her family in 2 years now. Her daughter getting quite emotional as she read that speech out from her mother earlier. So really, the whole world is very closely watching now to see if Maria Corina Machado does in fact materialize in Oslo. If she does, what she has to say, because this will be our first chance to hear from her in nearly a year at this point. And then if she follows through on her promise to return to Venezuela, where authorities say they are waiting to arrest her, what happens there? I want to play you just a little bit of sound from the daughter's speech in Oslo earlier today.
This award is for you, for the Venezuelan who is in the country, who keeps fighting for our future, for all of us who are out of the country, for the Venezuelan who left and can no longer see their family, for those that can't come back, for the Venezuelan who is oppressed under the regime.
And Hallie, as you say, this drama in Norway at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony playing out at the same time. You have this very high-stakes action being taken by the Trump administration, seizing that tanker off the Venezuelan coast.
It also, Raph, very vividly speaks to the dangers of potentially leading an opposition against Maduro in Venezuela right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is a government that was already authoritarian, already repressive, and you can imagine it is a lot more paranoid, and it is really clamping down given the kind of pressure that the Trump administration is subjecting it to right now. Sanctions, closing of airspace, seizing oil tanker, and those strikes that we have been seeing on what the Trump administration claims, without a whole lot of evidence, are these boats, narco boats allegedly heading from Venezuela. So a lot of geopolitical factors all kind of coming together here. It is worth saying, Hallie, that Machado is in some ways kind of a controversial Nobel Peace Prize laureate because she is an open advocate for American military intervention to topple the Maduro government in Venezuela. Hallie.
Raph Sanchez, thank you very much for that reporting. Still ahead for us, what officials from Egypt and Iran are saying about playing a match to honor LGBTQ plus Pride Month in next year's World Cup. So local World Cup organizers say they are going to move forward with Pride events outside the stadium, even after some backlash from two countries at the center of this key match here. Egypt and Iran are set to face off in Seattle in June, in a match that's supposed to honor Washington's LGBTQ plus communities, something soccer federations are really pushing back on right now, sending official complaints to FIFA. Egypt's soccer federation says it rejects any activities, I'm quoting here, related to supporting homosexuality during the match, arguing that's at odds with the country's cultural values, where being gay is not directly outlawed, but it's very seriously policed. And in Iran, where gay people can face the death penalty, they're backing up Egypt, with its soccer head calling the move unreasonable. Refs for FIFA declined to comment on those complaints. Aaron Gilchrist is covering this one because there's an intense fascination with all things World Cup. Obviously, you've got this Pride Month match intended to sort of honor the LGBTQ plus community in that area. What do we know about why the World Cup would pick these two countries to play that match? Any other response, et cetera?
So the World Cup folks, FIFA would say that they have a very detailed technical process for figuring out who plays where and when. They went through a list of conditions talking about things about like minimizing the amount of travel that different teams and fans have to do to get to some of these games, trying to maximize the number of rest days that players and their support teams would have between matches. They talked about considering things like the global reach and the time zones of people who would be watching some of these games. They looked at technical things about the venues themselves, whether they are in what the temperature is in places where they're located in terms of how that might affect people from different countries. They looked at air conditioning. They looked at broadcasting and ticket sales and things of that nature. All that, FIFA says, are things considered that are considered in figuring out the schedule that you see on the screen there in terms of who plays where and when. Now, the events for Pride Month, which will be happening in major cities all around the country in June, will still go on in Seattle. The organizing committee there putting out a statement that says the Pacific Northwest is home to one of the nation's largest Iranian American communities and a thriving Egyptian diaspora and rich communities representing all nations we're hosting in Seattle. We're committed to ensuring all residents and visitors experience the warmth, respect, and dignity that defines our region. One last thing I'll note for you, Hallie. FIFA, in talking about this grid that they put out over the weekend, did say that the final version of the match schedule will be out in March of next year. So is it possible that there could be some changes to the schedule here? It's a possibility. There's another game being played in Vancouver that same day between Belgium and New Zealand. So we'll see if there's a change that comes.
This is also tricky for FIFA, right? I mean, there were some, I remember 2022 in Qatar where there were some cultural conflicts then for the games there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And FIFA backed Qatar at that time, saying that people visiting the host country needed to respect their customs and their cultural norms was the term that FIFA used back then. You may remember there were some European countries who wanted to wear armbands that were supportive of human rights and diversity. And the folks in Qatar said that was really a criticism of some of the Qatari rules around same-sex relationships in that country. And so, Hallie, it would be a double standard if they were willing to change just because they've gotten these complaints.
Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And that does it for us. Thank you, as always, for watching what has been a busy Wednesday evening. We've got more coverage picking up right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.